What's up, everybody? It's Gary V, and this is the Sports Card Strategy Show, because you know this, there is no off-season.
No off-season! When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now, because after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. I want to know, what is your sports card strategy? Have you thought about your sports card strategy? Welcome in. If you're familiar with the Sports Card Strategy Show and the nooffseason.com fam, this is not a new concept. If you're a new listener, it might be a new concept. We talk about, why are you in the hobby? Are you in it to make money flipping? Are you in it to fund a personal collection of yours? Are you just kind of learning and stepping in after a long hiatus you collected as a kid, and now you're just trying to figure out what the heck is going on in this ultra modern sports card world where you've got breaks and box wars and pack rips and all sorts of stuff going on, live shopping? We had some great questions on last week's premium podcast at nooffseason.com asking about how to make money buying cards at the $1 to $20 level and then selling them for 2 to 3 times the amount that you bought them for, whether it's a card show value box or whether it's winning an eBay auction. We talked about that last week on the premium podcast. A lot of great stuff at nooffseason.com. Another great topic that was brought up by one of our premium members is how to manage a bankroll of about $10,000 to $15,000. And this could be annually, this could be monthly, if you have more disposable income, or if you're just more successful flipping cards in the hobby at that level. But you have to have a strategy behind it. So what are you doing? How are you breaking down your bankroll? And many of you start with a bankroll of 0, and then you want to try to build it up to $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's annually, but we can help you do it at nooffseason.com for a low investment of $2 a day, $9 a week, $30 a month, or $300 a year. We're going to help you make 10K profit. Now, you're going to have to buy the sports cards, but you're going to make 10K profit following what we do at nooffseason.com. As we look at managing a bankroll, we kind of answer the question, well, X percentage should go to raw to grade. X percentage might go to print on demand cards. X percentage might go to vintage longer term holds. X percentage might go to buying already graded cards that we see a selling marker down the road in the next 3 to 6 months or maybe 9 months. And it's a good time to buy that card. We call that the right card for the right player at the right time. And so an example of that right now is cards that are down in the last 60 days that really have no reason not to go up in the future. And one of them happens to be one of my top players that I've bought throughout 2025, Caitlin Clark. It would make sense to me that as you shut down a player like Caitlin Clark for the season, you would see a dip in her pricing. And then the question becomes, will her cards go back up again next year when she starts to play during the 2026 WNBA season? So a couple of key cards for her, and these are not supply and demand related dips. Her PSA 10 2024 Prism WNBA rookie variation WNBA logo card number 145. That card in the last 60 days is down $1,125. So the last sale was on September 8th at $1,875. And the maximum sale in the last 60 days was $3,000. That card sold 12 times in the last 60 days. That's a lot. So it's not an anomaly sale that has brought this card down. The other card that stands out to me is her 2024 Prism WNBA Silver number 22 in PSA 10. That card's down $1,051. So the last sale on September 9th, $2,100. The maximum sale in the last 60 days, $3,200, sold 25 times. And then another card that's notable, her 2024 Prism Silver WNBA 145, the rookie variation in PSA 10, is down $750. These are lower pop PSA 10s that are not climbing in pop count. So it's not due to increased supply on the market. It sold 14 times. These cards have sold all more than 10 times in the last 60 days. So these are not anomaly sales, which leads me to believe that it's directly related to Caitlin Clark just simply not playing basketball. And the question is, are these good buys right now? This is part of my process. When you ask on the premium podcast, or you're trying to come up with your sports card strategy, my advice is allocate a small portion, not a big portion, a small portion of your flipping budget, your flipping bankroll, to cards like this, where you buy them already graded, they're down, they're for a top player, and no one's looking at this player because they're not in the news cycle, they're not playing. So the question becomes, are these Caitlin Clark cards great buys right now? Will they go up in the future? It could be a year from now. It could be September 2026 when her and the Indiana Fever are making a playoff run before they go back up in value. They might continue to go down in value through the holiday dip over the next few months. So while they're dipping now, is now the best time to buy them. But allocating your sports card, flipping, collecting, portfolio, whatever you want to call it, budget, to me, it's all the same thing. To already graded cards like this, a small percentage of your bankroll budget to this makes sense. Now, what's even more interesting about these three Caitlin Clark cards is I got these by going baseball, basketball, and football over the last 60 days, cards that have 10 or more sales, which ones are down the most from a dollar standpoint. And these three stood out. They're all in the top 10, which is crazy. I think it has to do with her injury and not playing, more specifically, not being shut down for the WNBA season, the remainder of the WNBA season. So more to come on this. But I ask you, whether you're listening on Apple, whether you're listening on Spotify, whether you're watching at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, whether you're engaged with us on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy, drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. What's your sports card strategy? All right. Now, on today's show, we've got a lot of great stuff. We're going to talk about how to appraise collections, which is not typically a topic that we cover on the Sports Card Strategy Show, but we're going to get a little into vintage today. We're going to talk about different reasons why you would want your collection appraised. Maybe some reasons why, you never thought of these reasons before. Trust me on that. And then we're going to talk about how technology has transformed collecting. Deep diving into eBay's innovations with their director of product. So that is going to be an amazing deep dive that we're going to cover on today's show. But first, there's a new PSA feature I'm in love with. And later on today's show, we're going to do a BGS grade reveal and explain why I chose specific cards to submit to BGS over PSA, over CGC, over SGC. If you want to spend $300 to make $10K profit, like I talked about earlier, join nooffseason.com now. Get our tried and true strategies and tools to help you mitigate mistakes and risk and maximize wins and profit. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% now because, gives you a little bit of extra money to spend on the right card for the right player at the right time, or use our sports card rankings at nooffseason.com to buy some nice raw to grade. All right, now let's get into a new PSA feature that I love. Now, when you get your grade reveal, you get offers on your cards. So if you're in the PSA app, this is what it looks like. There's a version on the psacard.com desktop where you will see offers as well. Now, the cool thing about this is you have a 24-hour countdown clock after your grade reveal to make a decision on, do you want your card to go to eBay? Do you want it to go to the PSA vault? Do you want it shipped back to you? Or do you want to accept any of your offers? So you're immediately able to now click a button or multiple buttons and all of a sudden make money just like that. So more technology in the hobby coming later on today's show when we talk with Janie Parasini, the director of product at eBay. But I wanted to give PSA a quick shout out there on the new feature. I do absolutely love the new offers feature that you get in your grade reveal, and you only have 24 hours to make a decision. Why? Because they want to ship your cards back to you. But first, they want to give you the opportunity to go ahead and accept offers or send them to eBay or send them to the PSA vault. Wouldn't it be nice if there were a tool that you could just upload pictures of a card and it would tell you what it would grade and or what it would be worth in the future? We built one. It's our card analyzer and predictor tool. Go premium at nooffseason.com. Multiple pricing tiers. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% now. And nooffseason.com is your number one place to find the top sports card auctions. We curate auctions from eBay, bring them into our website at nooffseason.com. If you're not sure what to search for on eBay to find the best cards, just visit nooffseason.com and find our top sports card auctions. Also, if you're confused by grading your cards, grade with us at nooffseason.com. Send us your cards. We do the hard part and save you money. We are offering CGC, SGC, Beckett. In addition to PSA, when you grade with us, we also track your gem rate for you. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% now. We are all about data-driven sports card investing. That interview with the director of product at eBay is coming up right now, where we talk about eBay pro tips and an eBay features dive that you are going to love. Let's get into it. All right, I'm super excited to bring in Janie Parasini. Now, she is the director of product management at eBay. eBay just celebrated their 30th anniversary this past week, and Janie is in charge of really a ton of cool stuff at eBay. It's kind of like if I wasn't doing the sports card strategy show and nooffseason.com, her job might be my other dream job. Janie, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Paul. Now I'm nervous. Now I really got to perform, or else, like, yeah, you might be taking my job. So let's do this.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not trying to take your job. It just sounds like a really cool job. And I've heard so many good things about you because we talked to Mike Nett at the National, and you and I were going to try to meet up, and you were going to try to be a part of that interview. So actually, this is better because I get you one-on-one. And I've heard so many good things about what you're leading at eBay. And we love eBay here at the nooffseason.com family and the Sports Card Strategy Show. So this is better. It's good to have you one-on-one, and I appreciate your time. Okay, so let's start with, why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourself so that our audience can learn a little bit more about you, your job at eBay, and then you personally, because I've heard that you're a collector. I'm curious to know if you're a flipper. Like what's going on with Janie?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on the show. And this was my strategy was to just get you one-on-one. So this is all going according to plan. I'm also a paying customer of No Off Season, so I'm stoked to just be here too. And where I'm a collector myself. I've been a collector my whole life. My dad got me into it. I actually have a bunch of his cards I'm going through, some of his 1960s baseball cards. He started getting me into collecting as a kid in the 90s. So most of my older collection's junk wax, but that stuff has sentimental value for me. And then as I got older, as I got money, then I started getting more into investing and using it as a way to think about what is my collection and what are things that maybe I look at as more. Yeah, kind of in that flippy mentality, and we'll probably get into that. And I do have a dream job. This is like one of the coolest. I think this is the coolest job I've ever had so far, and I get to talk about trading cards every single day of my life, which is not a bad thing. So yeah, and my background is in the mobile game space, and then I ran growth for DraftKings, launched Sportsbook. I was early at Reddit, and I was in the Web3 space as well. And then I was like, I've always been a consumer of eBay and as a collector, and this role came up and I was like, this is perfect. And then I get to work with Mike Nett, who, too. And it's awesome.
Okay. It's all starting to make a ton of sense because, it seems like you and I both have a little bit of like a fantasy sports background. You mentioned DraftKings. I've seen eBay as I've used eBay over the last 5 or 6 years. I've seen it improve a ton. And I know you have a lot of, you lead a team of a lot of great and talented people. So I know you'd probably be the first to be humble on giving you credit, but I have to say it's starting to make sense because I saw your drawers of cards earlier that you showed me, and like putting together, okay, she appreciates the sentimentality of junk wax. She's a collector. She's a paid member of nooffseason.com. She's leading a team at eBay. eBay's gotten better and better. It's starting to come together now. Okay, so Janie, I'm super excited to kind of ask you about some broader topics. We mentioned eBay's 30th anniversary this past week. Technology has transformed collecting, and we want to deep dive into some of the more granular stuff later, but I know you're talking about, user experiences and simplifying them. So let's start there. What do you think about when you talk about simplifying user experiences? How do you think about that? And what kinds of things do you want to talk about related to that?
The 30-year anniversary, I think it's like the next chapter, of our collecting of eBay and collectibles, in the sense that we're trying to simplify. We've had 30 years of data. We've had 30 years to test and learn and understand too where eBay wants to facilitate collecting behavior and where we want to be in the background so collectors can do their thing. What I mean by that is technology really should not be in the way of someone being able to do what they need to do. It should enhance, speed up, get out of the way, and keep like human to human connection, which is where we started, right? Is I have a card, you want it, I might put it for auction, or there's a connection there. And I think the last few things that you've seen most recently around are more data. So, and what that means really to a customer is closing tabs. How many tabs do you have open at a given time when you're trying to make a decision on, should I buy this card, or even should I sell this card? Is right now the right time? And I think as a flipper too, timing is so important, and we have a sizable amount of real-time data. We keep that data incredibly clean. I think that's the other thing too, is there's so many signals. How do you know that a signal that you're getting is accurate? You take into account too, as a flipper, from a pricing perspective, have they cleaned it for fraud? Have they cleaned it for shill bidding? Did this item get paid? Because you don't want to price something or buy something that maybe didn't get paid, and that might be an inflated price. Like, these are all maybe nuances to a broad customer collector, but they're really, really important to a flipper and the community around making sure that you're getting an edge. And so,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And our audience really well, our Sports Card Strategy Show audience and our nooffseason.com family. Since you're a member, you know how detail-oriented we are with all those things. And I think when you talk about simplifying experiences, I have firsthand felt like I don't have to have too many tabs open if I'm on the desktop. And the mobile app, I mean, there's personally, I'm 44. So I'm kind of on the verge of like the different generations. I feel like I definitely can flex either way sometimes. There's a lot of times I don't like using my mobile phone. I just don't.
Mhm.
There's times that I do. eBay is my favorite app, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. Like it's literally my favorite app because I think a lot of the things that you're talking about at a high level. It's very clean. It's very easy to use. I've seen it get better. I've seen it gradually get better. It feels to me as a user like you're gradually rolling out features in a beta from a beta perspective so that it feels like you're testing them before they go live everywhere. And you're you're cleaning them up a little bit based on that. And so I personally love to see the data, not only literally the data that we get, say, from PSA, or that we get within the eBay desktop or the eBay app in terms of you've purchased a card on eBay. How does it kind of, what are the values of it now since you purchased it, like the My Collection feature, which has been around for a while and things like that. But also like data that I'm sure that you're gathering during the beta testing behind the scenes to make the experience better. So anything else you want to add on the experiences? Because I know there's a couple other high level topics that we want to get to related to some of the features and functionality of what you've got going on at eBay.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll get to it. I think you mentioned PSA, and PSA is I'm really proud of the work the team did there. And that one came about too with how do we make grading easy? How do we make it so it's fast too? That's the change too. Is that we were doing an assessment of what's the in a flipper again. Hopefully you'll appreciate this. Is what is the impact of selling or buying a card in season versus off season, and when those timely events happen? And a big bummer is when your card is locked up waiting to get graded and you're like, oh, like I wish I had that card to turn around. And we noticed that the average lifetime to buy something and get something graded was outside of the average season window of a season. And we're like, what if we could make it easy, first of all, to reduce the amount of paperwork, the back and forth, reduce the amount of shipping legs, and make sure that a customer has it in a timely manner so that they can reap the benefits of being season.
Yeah, and I mean, timing is so important. You nailed it. And it is super frustrating. We talk about that a lot on the Sports Card Strategy Show in terms of when should you buy a particular card if you're trying to grade it because of the turnaround time, right? And the work that eBay has done with PSA is probably, I mean, it's easily some of the best work that anyone's done in the hobby to make things more efficient on flippers. I mean, collectors, of course, benefit from it as well. But I mean, firsthand as a flipper, timing is super important. And just being able to have those PSA grading options at checkout, multiple options, really, working very, very well. I have a question I want to ask you about that later when we get more granular, but definitely really good stuff. And then data, I try not to do anything without data. I try not to make decisions without looking at data. And so I consistently see eBay leading the way really in terms of being a marketplace that gives you data and enables you to make decisions based on that. Really, I feel like personally it's just on the precipice of like really getting good though. I mean, before we get into some of the other high level features that you're working on, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about where eBay is in, say, the things like the seller hub from a seller standpoint, using data, from being a buyer and being able to do research on eBay to make data-driven decisions? What's kind of your overall take, just I guess, on like what inning is eBay in right now? Are we taking batting practice? Are we in the third inning? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, so let's start with here. Maybe we'll start more philosophical too. Is the data bringing data closer to the decision-making event is really important. That's the signal that we found, especially when we launched the pop report module in our view item page, which I hope you've seen and love the feedback on that one. But that was we knew that people were going to like it. We didn't realize that collectors were really going to love it. And then we were like, well, what other data is really relevant and important, and where do we show it at the right time so that they're, maybe they're multi-screen, or like maybe they're on their phone, and making sure that that is something we take into consideration. But I also think it's really interesting and important that, like, for instance, as a customer review, you have data, and I appreciate the analysis that you guys do. So how do we make sure that we are providing data, and we also are working in an ecosystem where you all are helping? Like, we don't see this as like a, what's the right word here? Like, I'm a very much in the philosophy of, I want my local card shop to remain open. I want to leverage third-party, whether it's data or third-party tools that maybe our eBay will never build, because it's not for a more core, or like, we dealt with this when we were DraftKings too, is how niche do you go? And then how do you make sure that whatever you can't go too niche on we can foster that and have a way for a customer to find that with like an ecosystem. And so I think just philosophically, that's where my head goes. And I think if I had to do the inning thing, I'll say we're on deck.
On deck. I like that. Okay. So that totally makes sense to me. And I'll kind of break it down for the audience in this way. Like, I take what Janie's saying as eBay. I mean, eBay has, I don't know how many concurrent users at any one given time. I mean, it's a massive, massive platform. It's the data that I've looked at, which is like all just third-party data and stuff. eBay,
it's in the millions.
Far exceeds. Okay, so in the millions of concurrent users. Like, for those of you that don't understand what that means, like, that's way more users at any one given second in the day than like we could ever imagine, basically. And so what I'm trying to say is eBay is not niche. Like, eBay is a massive platform. And collectibles, while definitely the category that we're all focused on, is only one part of eBay. And even within collectibles, there's so many different niches. Like, I would venture to guess that there's like thousands of niches just within the collectibles category. So Janie has to build a platform that appeals to all of these different people and doesn't, right? That's kind of...
I do.
Yeah.
One kind of fun stat is there are 300 plus searches for the term PSA 10 per minute on our platform.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That is crazy. I love this. And I know, and I've told your team this too in person, some people that you work with at eBay, how much I love all the data. So you're getting me excited. But I think what you're saying is that eBay has to leave room in the hobby, specifically for platforms like nooffseason.com, who get super, super niche. And that's not really necessarily a fit for eBay, which is perfect because it allows us to kind of hopefully work together and provide the data that makes sense to people.
You're
who
providing
really
a
want
service that we need people like you. We need companies and products like you guys to make sure that there is an end-to-end experience for a collector that they're like, okay, like, they're not frustrated by. It makes sense. There's easy ingress points. There's just yes, it is an ecosystem, and that's how we're thinking about how you guys play into that.
Love it. So AI is a big topic in the world right now. And to be honest with you, like, I'm still trying to figure out how that even makes sense to bring into what we do. But we're here to talk about eBay. And I know that's a topic that you're probably looking at as well, Janie, and how to use AI to enhance the user experience at eBay. So I'll toss that over to you and ask you, what the heck's going on with artificial intelligence? How are you thinking about that?
AI is a mandate within our product organization that we should all be thinking about it. And AI doesn't have to be a front end experience, right? It's like back to that, like, technology can be quiet in the background. So perhaps the front end experience you're going to experience, seamless, you love it. Oh, by the way, it was powered by AI. you don't necessarily like it. I think that's the thing too, is like not shoving it in your face, and also making sure you trust it. And I think that we've all tested, you know, different consumer facing tools for AI. I've been trying to test with like my fantasy league this year of like the paid fantasy apps I have, and then I've been kind of running it concurrently with ChatGPT and like Perplexity and stuff. And I'm like seeing who was right so like we're, I only have a week's worth of data right now, but like every week I'm tracking who made better decisions. And so this is like kind of my first year of like, and then I'm looking at like my matchup. So like I'm very deep on that. And I've been as a manager of PMs too, I've been looking at it like how can I use it to make my team more effective and efficient so we can deliver faster, we can deliver better experience, more holistic experiences for the collector. And then how showing up to, let's say, a customer on eBay, we're investing a lot in AI around card recognition. And we see it as, again, something that will expedite a lot of operational things a collector has to do, but also excited about some of the things that it could power. And right now, I think we're all just too in testing phase. What is a customer going to like? And what ends up being kind of table stakes of AI, whether they're modules or a back end. But it's definitely already part of the experience. And we're only going to continue to invest in that and enhance and optimize where it makes sense.
I love all of that because I think sometimes, I mean, I personally will get hung up on, okay, well, what do I use this for? And AI has kind of been that for me, but taking your thought of it doesn't have to be consumer facing. It can just be something that helps you be more efficient in the back end or be more accurate or both. Yeah. And that's awesome. And so here's
actually something I've used with you guys is okay. I have my CSV file. I've created like a little agent on ChatGPT. So I've itemized all my collection, and on eBay too. But I've also have a CSV because I just tend to manage a lot of my things in there too that might be like more offline. And I pull your guys' analysis and I put it into chat and I basically have it managing and recommending when I should be buying or when I should be selling, what my price. So I've been like building that and helping enhance and just basically the things that take me so many hours on a weekend. And now I've cut that down so that I've like kind of, and you saw my drawers, like I've hundreds of thousands of cards. So this has really changed the way that I can make decisions on hundreds of thousands of cards and not kind of been like, okay, I can get to maybe 10,000 cards right now or 1,000 cards and make a decision.
Yeah, that is so cool. And again, I'm starting to see why everyone told me that I would love talking to you. It's like, okay, this is super fun. So we talked about PSA and the great integration, not only integration, but I mean, it's like, it's such a integrated partnership. It's like far beyond the technology end, I think separates eBay and PSA, quite frankly, from a lot of other marketplaces and grading companies in the market. But also, it goes beyond the technology piece, obviously, because there's a lot of logistics to that. And I can speak from my experience. It's all working very, very well. Grading services, any other innovations there that you want to talk about?
So we released our initial grading experience, which I think we're really proud of. We've gotten our CSATs pretty high on that one. And we've heard feedback that it's fast, it works as expected, which is what you hope. And I think too, managing and monitoring, because you don't get to physically hold the card. And like, was that going to be a blocker for customers that are buying a $250 plus card? And what we've realized is actually it's calibrated quite well, and we're constantly optimizing it. But it's doing its job. We are excited about enhancing that, extending that, and PSA has been a great partner to us and working with us on what we can do. And I think everyone has their flavor of how they're bringing, and our flavor is we don't want it to be like this grandiose, super multi-step thing. We want it to just be should I get it? Yeah, boom. And you've got all the data, you understand, you've got enough confidence that is this worth grading or not? Because I can see the pop reports. I know what the condition looks like. I have high resolution images in the listing for it. So end to end. And then I also, by the way, if it's in vault, I know that it can be in vault or it's not a surprise to me. And we can also talk kind of too about like making sure that we're really clear about those experiences. When is grading available? When is vault available? And having that as a very consistent and predicted experience for a collector.
Makes sense. Okay, it's time to geek out, I think, a little bit on eBay's platform, and I think this is a good place to start. And you can feel free to push back on me in any way if there's anything that you don't want to talk about. But grading services, I've used it a lot. My team members at nooffseason.com have used it a lot. For the most part, it works perfectly. I've noticed a couple things. Number one, I haven't been able to utilize the grading services at checkout. And we're okay. Let me back up. For those of you that don't know, it needs to be part of the authenticity guarantee program, which, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Janie, but it's $250 or more. It has to be a seller in the US. It also, for the PSA grading at checkout, has to have 2 or more high-res images. And depending on the price of the card, it could be different PSA service levels. So it could be the $39.99 based on the price of the card, or in some cases might have to be the $79.99 or even higher, depending on. So I've noticed, number one, you can't utilize the grading option if you have spendable funds toggled on. And that could be wrong now, but as of maybe the last time I did that was like sometime in the last month. And then number two, we were talking about this before the interview. Sometimes it's just not there. And I think like people have asked me, and I've been looking forward to this conversation because I can kind of geek out with you on it, because this is how our audience is. People have asked me, well, sometimes I see it, sometimes I don't. I know from being in software development in my career, that typically could be just because you're betaing something and you haven't fully rolled it out yet for all users. But is there anything there that you want to comment on in terms of just the overall PSA? Because you've got way more feedback than I have from people, but anything you want to comment on the overall PSA grading at checkout that you're kind of working through?
Yeah, so you're right. So it's $250 plus for raw cards. And there are a few ways right now, and we are working on, but there are a few ways right now as someone that is interested in grading to just easily navigate and know. One is when you're searching on the left side, if you're on desktop, there's an authenticity guarantee filter. If you enable that when you're searching for trading cards and that's on, it should have grading as a service as an option. So that's an easy one. It's just at the time of search, it can filter that for you. I love that. So that's like a quick win, or, for a little pro tip on just, but then, and I think that it goes to like, if you're already down in the weeds of, I'm bidding on this card, or, this person's accepted an offer for this card and it's over that 250. There are some nuances and edge cases, and we're working on those. And we are all customers of our platform, and grading is something that we're continuing to invest in, making that experience in a bunch of these different edge cases too, where maybe you had a question, oh, I thought I could do that, making that really clear. But an easy pro tip right now is just filter for authenticity guarantee at time of search, and you should be golden.
I love that. And I've talked a lot about this on the show. Like, I've had different scenarios where eBay's contacted me because it goes through AG first, and then they say something maybe about the condition of the card. and it's really, really helped me out. I know it's helped out a lot of people in our audience. So yeah, great pro tip there. I would highly recommend everybody filter by the authenticity guarantee.
You'll see that blue check mark. If like nothing, if you're a visual
Gotta do the
person,
blue check.
look for that.
Janie, I don't know if you know, but I'm not going to bore you or anyone else with the whole story I've already told on the air. It was totally my fault, but eBay saved me in the end. You got to go blue check mark. Got to go blue check mark. Okay, so in terms of other features that I kind of want to get your take on, and I won't waste our time talking about all the stuff that everybody already knows that I love about eBay. One thing that came up on social media right before the National is the extended bidding feature. And so a lot of our audience and premium members has asked me about that. What can you share with us about, I guess, the status of the extended bidding feature and then the plans for that?
Yeah. We're still testing extended bidding. And the interesting thing too about extended bidding is my other job too is I lead product for Golden, one of our acquired companies that we got through our PSA, our Collections Universe partnership. And Golden has a flavor of extended bidding, and it's very specific though to a kind of a niche audience. It's a different flavor for eBay, and so I think this is like what's eBay's flavor of extended bidding, and yeah, we're still testing it. So far, customers have been positive about it, and do you have any feedback on extended bidding, or have you gotten the ability to do it? Have you been part of that?
I haven't been. I've been bidding like crazy on a lot of items. Around I would say around $750 to $2,000 ending prices is where I've been. That's kind of been my sweet spot for the last couple of months where I've been bidding, and I've been bidding like crazy on a lot of them. And as the audience knows, like I always say, I'm fine losing an eBay auction, right? Because I want to get that deal. And it could be, I'm guessing it could be because the reason I haven't run across it is because when I my experience of like understanding extended bidding, it would come from other marketplaces in the hobby that, like Golden, that have maybe perceived higher price items all the time. And it I guess it reeks to me almost of like a higher end item feature than maybe like not that $500 to $2,000 isn't a higher end item for people, but it's definitely like on the lower end of high priced items. And I mean, maybe that could be why I haven't come across it yet, especially if it's still in beta. To me, I mean, I could be wrong, but like if someone is trying to win a card at say $50 to $75, me personally, I don't know why there would be extended bidding on that. But I mean, you're maybe
think about it as we're trying. Trust is a big one for us. Making sure that it's a fair price realization at the end of the day as a buyer and a seller. And I think there's different ways you can test it too. I mean, I don't know if, how much you've engaged with our eBay Live platform, but how fun is it when you're like in a live stream and you're like popcorn bidding the heck out of someone else last minute. So there's an entertainment factor there. You mentioned Golden. Golden is a different use case where, yes, it's a higher end customer you get put to in a smaller pool. So again, it acts differently than eBay because it's a more of that, okay, I already had a bid and then basically I'm entered into an extended bidding experience once that auction is closed with just the people that have bid. So it's more of that, we're all in demand of that item. So as a seller, like, great, okay, so create that dynamic to make sure that it's at the end of the day, it's the fair price is realized on both sides. So I think that there's only just more and more testing and enhancements to do, but I think we're all very excited about what extended bidding on eBay can be and will be on the platform.
Yeah, that actually gives really good insights to me into why it's kind of rolling out the way that it is, and maybe where you would see it first, or maybe where you would be more likely to see it, and where you would be less likely to see it, because it does make sense that it wouldn't necessarily be like a global every auction type of situation, but it could be a situation where you guys are trying to build trust at eBay between the buyer and the seller for a particular type of item.
We're testing where it makes sense. We're testing where it makes sense. Yeah, because I think to your point, it might not. It's a lot of what we do in collectibles is not, hey, let's roll this out to every single person, because we do have different segments. If you're a flipper, and we have collectors, and we have investors, and we have so many different types of segments that we support, and we try to test in the appropriate use cases to get the right signal during that phase. So that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, if I'm trying to auction off a Cooper Flag Topps Now Draft Night base card, PSA 10, buyers might be frustrated with extended bidding on an item like that, because there's going to be like 100,000 of them.
Yeah.
However, if it's more of like a pop 50 LeBron James auto, okay, definitely a high interest item, but a smaller buyer pool. And
exactly.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm picking up what you're laying down there,
Jenny. Did I sell you on it?
100%. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense because my beef is like, people will post something on social media, and I'm not trying to blast any of my colleagues in the hobby content creation space, but I value accuracy and details. And there's a lot of social media posts that just bypass all of that. So that's why I appreciate the time with you to kind of get things right. I'm amazed at how eBay can balance features for the buyer and features for the seller, and how eBay can protect the buyer 100%, but still be the best platform for sellers. How do you do it all? How do you make sure that you're prioritizing a feature for the buyer and a feature for the seller?
Well, you start by using the product. So I instill that with our product team, right? Especially in collectibles, because it is such a personal category, in my opinion. And maybe, I will always say collectibles is the best category, but I live it every day. You don't go a day without talking to a customer, whether it's a buyer or a seller. You don't go a day, or a partner, and you use the product. And most of our PMs too are end to end, meaning they're looking at that experience from the sell side all the way through to the buy side. So they don't think about just what happens after checkout and don't really care. They're looking at was that a great experience for a buyer? Was that a great experience for a seller? And then you kind of prioritize based upon the end-to-end experience, and less on are we building buyer and then we're building seller. So it's more of the end-to-end flow. And this is now we're getting maybe too many. This isn't a product strategy podcast, so I'll stop maybe at that. But that's how we try to, at least for the last few years that I've been at eBay, that's the philosophy I've tried to instill with our team.
Well, we love having people on from eBay, because eBay has the most items in the collectibles category listed at any given time. You can find what you want. We love card shows. We love card shops. Like Janie said earlier, we want the hobby. We want everybody in the hobby to do well. There's a lot of different ways to get great cards and great collectibles. eBay happens to be the place that resonates the most with myself and our audience, because our audience is really based on empowering people to do this from wherever they live in the world, wherever they live in the United States. Maybe they can't get to card shows all the time. So eBay allows us all to do that, and to have Janie Parasini on, Director of Product Management at eBay, makes a ton of sense for the Sports Card Strategy Show. So we really appreciate your time. Thanks for being part of the nooffseason.com family. And is there anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Thanks for having me on, and maybe we can meet up and do some trades or something like that. Would love to I'm just excited that I got to be on this with you guys. So thank you so much for the invite.
All right, great stuff there from Janie. Can't believe she's been a premium member of nooffseason.com for a long time. Still a loyal member. Gotta love that. If you like the content on this show and want more, go premium at nooffseason.com now to get unlimited advice answered on our Friday podcast for premium members called the Premium Pod. Go premium at nooffseason.com. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% now. All right, it's time to get into my BGS grade reveal. And this is not just me showing you cards that I got graded and all that stuff. No, I'm not about that. I am about sharing information with you, sharing data, sharing plays to help you make money flipping sports cards by learning from my experience. What I did was I decided to send a specific group of cards to BGS, Beckett, instead of PSA and instead of CGC. Now, many of you already know that CGC cards is where I sent 25 of my Cooper Flag Draft Night Topps cards. The Topps Now Draft Night cards for Cooper Flag. And I was very, very happy with my grades from CGC. I got 22 pristine 10 gold labels out of 25 total cards. And I sent 11 of the Topps Now cards to BGS. Why? Because I'm chasing the pristine 10 black label. There's also a pristine 10 gold label that is just 1/2 grade away from a black label. We'll get into that in a second. But here's the reveal of those cards. So I got it goes 9-5, 10, 9-5, 8-5, 8-5, 9, 9, 8-5, 10, 9. And then on the gold foil out of 50, I got a 9-5. So we'll break this down a little bit further. That basically amounts to 3 8-5s, 3 9s, 2 9-5s, and 2 gold label 10s. So now on the gold label 10s, I will tell you that one of them was 0.5 away on the corners from getting a black label. So 10 centering, 10 edges, 10 surface, 9-5 corners. All right. One of them was 0.5 surface away from getting a black label. 10, 10, 10, and then a 9-5 surface. All right. So why is this significant? Well, we've seen data in the past that tells us that if you send these Topps Now cards or Panini Instant cards, these types of cards, meaning a significant card for a significant player, i.e. Cooper Flag's first pro release in a print-on-demand format. Because they're print-on-demand, they grade very well. We've seen that not only is there sometimes a higher black label rate than a gem mint rate at Beckett, but definitely the black label rate outsells PSA 10s by a lot. So while I didn't get any black labels, I did get 2 gold labels. And then what's interesting is the rest of them, really other than a couple of 9-5s, didn't grade out as well as what I would have expected from any grading company. Now, on the gold foil, it'll be interesting to see because I've seen sales data through our card analyzer and predictor tool that Cooper Flag Topps Now Draft Night, the highest sales of that card when you toggle our card analyzer and predictor tool over to highest price. The top result is a gold foil, just not graded, raw. Gold foil sold on August 24th for $610. So that leads me to believe that my BGS 9.5, which has a 10 centering and then 9.5 corners, edges, and surface, would outsell the raw version. But by how much? We don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see. And, I didn't get the gold label or the black label for that particular card, I do believe that the gem mint grade will outsell the raw in that particular case. but we'll see. And I'll report back on that. Now, there's some other cards that I included in this Beckett submission because when you make a submission to any grading company, you have to keep in mind that you're paying for return shipping. And return shipping is pretty pricey because all the grading companies insure the package back to you. And so if you're sending one card to Beckett, you're actually paying a lot more to grade that one card than if you include a second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 11th, 20th, etc. card. Even though there might not be a minimum for grading with Beckett or a minimum for grading with PSA at the value level or the different service levels above the bulk value, right? Maybe there's not a minimum with CGC when you go economy or higher service level, but you're paying for the return shipping. And so you're actually incrementally lowering your cost per graded card by including more cards. So what I did was I included 6 more cards in this submission, and it was very strategically done. One of them was a 2023 Panini Prism Arch Manning throwback. And when I bought it raw on eBay in July, and I was going to send it to PSA because there's obviously more upside in a PSA 10. But when I examined the card, I realized I don't know if this is going to gem at PSA. There were a couple issues with the card, but sending it to BGS, you're more likely to get a gem mint grade because of the subgrades. So if you see a small issue with your card, whether it's barely off center on the front, perfectly centered on the back, and then looks absolutely pristine otherwise, you're probably more likely to get a gem mint at BGS than you are at PSA because of the subgrade. Because if it gets a 9 subgrade for that centering, it could easily get 9 5s on the rest of the subgrades and be still a 9 5. So that's what happened with the Arch Manning. It actually got 3 9 5s and then a 9 corners. So that gemmed. A LeBron James Topps Now that I really was hunting a black label for, I cracked it out of a PSA 10. It got a 9 5. So the subgrades on that were 10 centering, 10 corners, 9 5 edges, 9 5 surface. So when you equate that to a PSA 10, it makes sense because you've got 2 10s and 2 9 5. So very, very high subgrades. The other cards that I submitted, a 1997 Fleer Decade of Excellence Michael Jordan, which I thought was, had a small flaw. It actually had two flaws or several flaws. It got a 9 centering, 8 5 corners, 9 edges, and 9 surface. So that is a 9, a BGS 9. A Caitlin Clark red Prism number 22. So the red serial numbered, I believe, is out of, I want to say 99. This is a card that I had pre-graded at the National in a raw card review. And the raw card review gave it a 9. And I said, you know what? I'm going to submit it anyway outside of the label and see if it still gets a 9. And it did. So Beckett was actually extremely consistent with giving it a 9 in the raw card review in person and then giving it a 9 even after cutting it out of the raw card review. 8 5 centering, 9 corners, 9 5 edges, 9 surface. I still think maybe the subgrades will help it sell maybe for more than a PSA 9. So I still like that. And then another win, other than the Arch Manning gem, is a raw card I bought at trade night at the National. 2024 Panini Prism Monopoly WNBA Silver Caitlin Clark. Got a 9 5. 9 centering, 10 corners, 9 5 edges, 9 5 surface. So that one did look slightly off-center to me, and that's why I thought it would get a PSA 9. It got a BGS 9 5 with a 10 corners subgrade. So this is the strategy of what types of cards should you submit to BGS, because if it just simply gets a PSA 9, like if it doesn't get a PSA 10, PSA is kind of like a pass-fail. It's like a pass fail grade. It's like if it gets a 9, it's like all of a sudden back to raw value or less for most cards, 99% of cards. If it gets a 10, you got the upside. BGS is not necessarily a pass fail because you could get a 9 in some cases, but get higher subgrades, making your BGS 9 potentially outsell a PSA 9. You could get a BGS 9.5, which is obviously what you're hoping for if you think you're going to get a PSA 9. So a lot of good stuff there. And I wanted to reveal the strategy behind why I graded each of these cards with BGS. But we'll talk about a different grading company real quick, CGC Cards. Are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. Remember that nooffseason.com is the only place on the planet with sports card rankings, updated in real time, sorted by the ROI percentage you're likely to make in the future. And of course, when you click on each card in our rankings, it takes you to eBay auctions ending soonest for that card. All right, up next, something special that we don't typically do on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We're going to talk vintage, and we're going to talk appraising collections with Mike Osaki, who is the lead appraiser at PSA, and he runs his own company called Baseball in the Attic. Let's get into it. We now welcome in the founder of Baseball in the Attic and lead appraiser for PSA, Michael Osaki. Mike has been collecting vintage baseball cards and other sports memorabilia since he was a teenager. His grandfather gave him an old shoebox, and inside were some very old baseball cards with images that were entirely new to him. His expertise in vintage sports memorabilia includes writing for Parade Magazine, American Legion Magazine, Kiplinger's, and several other national publications. Forbes Magazine has even called Mike the Dean of Crackerjack baseball cards. He's a well-known sports memorabilia estate appraiser and a USPAP compliant and accredited member with the International Society of Appraisers. Mike, welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show and the nooffseason.com family.
Thanks, Paul. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for the intro.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself as a hobbyist.
Well, I got started when I was a kid, when I asked my grandfather for some old baseball cards. And for my birthday, he gave me a shoebox full of old baseball cards. The grail in that shoebox was Mike Schmidt's rookie from 73 Topps. And I still have that card today. It's pretty beat up. It's not in great condition at all. A fair market value for that might be $50, but to me, that card is worth $50 million because that was the impetus. That was the start on how I entered the hobby all those decades. That was back in the 90s.
That's awesome. So, as you probably know, we try to help people make money flipping sports cards, and we kind of have our tried and true methodologies, helping people buy the right card for the right player at the right time and looking for selling markers. And so one thing that leads us to more often than not is kind of buying ultra modern cards, because athletes are still playing. And so they can have performance spikes, they can have hype rises and things like that increase their pricing. So I'm just curious, do you buy any ultra modern sports cards? If not, why not? And if so, which ones and why?
So I don't buy any ultra modern sports cards. And in fact, I don't buy any cards. So I have a collection, but there is an inherent conflict of interest if I'm an appraiser and then I'm buying. Technically, if I'm interested, yes, I can go to eBay or go buy it in an auction and buy whatever I want. But if I appraise something and then buy it, there is a conflict of interest. So I just said to myself many years ago, don't buy anything, whether it's on eBay, at a card show, because then people find out, oh my God, Michael is buying this, he's buying that. And it's just, I don't want to get into that. I got very lucky in the late 90s, early 2000s. I bought a lot of nice vintage stuff. And here we are decades later, and those things have appreciated much more than anything I'm aware of. Real estate, stock market, hotels, golf courses, you name it. So that's kind of my retirement that I have, but I just don't buy anymore.
That's interesting. So I want to get into the appraising here in a minute, because I think that's the most fascinating thing that I've heard about you and that we kind of talked about when we were prepping for the show together. But are you not able to sell as well because of that? Does it go the same way with selling as it does with buying for you?
So I'm okay to sell because it's my own stuff. It's my own collection. If I want to sell something, I'm perfectly okay with that. Um, and I don't usually sell. Maybe I sell one card a year or every other year. I just, it's kind of like a buy and hold strategy, which usually, when people talk about the stocks, that's usually not an ideal strategy. But my collection is steered vintage. There a lot 100 1914 Cracker Jack, 15 Cracker Jack, 33 Gaudy, T206, late 1800s cards. And those cards kind of go up a little bit every single year. What you were just talking about, ultra modern, it's super volatile. It's super volatile. And if I could just talk about that market really quickly. So when a player, scores 40 points in a basketball game, 50 points, whatever it is, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then like 30 minutes after the game ends, they go onto eBay and they buy all those cards of that player that just scored 40, 50, whatever points it was, or 5 touchdowns in a game, or hits 3 home runs in a baseball game. That is not the time to buy. That is the time to sell. This market is like any other market in the world, and I correlate our market to the stock market, right? All the smart money is already in. When Giannis scores 50 points, they're selling to you, the retail customer, okay? And it's usually over, game, set, match, because the following week, the person might get injured. Maybe he's traded. Maybe he's benched. Maybe he slaps his wife across the face. Who knows? He's arrested. So you got to always be, and I see this every year, time and time again, and I just shake my head. You got to be in before that big event, whether it's ultra modern or modern cards. I know this podcast is about making money, but you got to be thinking about that. Just like a stock, okay? Stock comes out earnings. It's up 20% the next day because, oh my God, great earnings. They're back in growth mode. No, all the smart money's been in for 6 months, 12 months. They're selling to you. You're buying it up 20% overnight. That's a no-no.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's actually something that when I first started to get into trying to make money flipping sports cards, I struggled with, because we would see all the data of what cards are up, what cards are up, what cards are up. And so you would look at that and think, okay, well, those are the top cards. Wrong. Those are just the cards that, to your point, went up because people got super excited after an athlete's performance. And so we had to reverse engineer that. So at the Sports Card Strategy Show and nooffseason.com, we have reverse engineered that. But to your point, it is volatile, and you do have to get in and get out. You do have to get in at the right time and get out very quickly at the right time. And if you don't, I mean, one thing that we see at the beginning of every NFL season is the top quarterbacks cards start to dip after week 1. And even if they have a good performance, that's just the way that the market goes. So it has to do with just people getting excited and hype about the season. In August, prices go up, and then typically prices will go down during the season. We call it the mid-season dip, and then they'll go back up again during the playoffs, but only for the guys that are performing well, or people want to prospect on them winning the Super Bowl. So definitely the sports card ultra modern market is an interesting beast. And I want to get into more of the vintage market with you a little bit. And you can give us some insights on that. I know you're one of the top minds in the hobby related to that. And you come highly recommended from a lot of people, especially our good friend of the show, Mike Nett over at eBay. I know you guys are friends. So, but let's talk about appraising collections, because I know that is your bread and butter. Why do you appraise collections?
In the 90s, like I said, after my grandfather got me a shoebox of old baseball cards, on the weekends, I would go to sports card shows, usually at hotels, Holiday Inn, Ramada Inn, whatever it was. and you would see auction houses that had big signs, free appraisals, free appraisals. And I would just watch, listen, and learn. To me, that was a conflict of interest. The whole purpose of an auction house is they got to keep getting consignments month in, month out, right? That's the bread and butter. And so that was the auction house is in. You see a sign that says free appraisals. You come, maybe they say, well, a couple things. One, maybe the auction house actually makes you a cash offer, which, oh my God, it's an auction house. And they're also buying. Tell me that's not a conflict of interest. And then two, they'd say, oh my gosh, wow, Mr. John Doe, this suitcase is worth at our auction 50 grand. And then Mr. John Doe thinks about it. Maybe he walks around, he interviews some other auction houses. He comes back to this one because this auction house gave him the highest quote of 50,000. But then his collection sells at auction for 25,000, which is what a couple other auction houses said it would sell for. And Mr. John Doe has no recourse. So was that an appraisal? What was that? Was it a chit chat? So I am an independent appraiser helping, I'm not affiliated with an auction house. So I give honest, trustworthy appraisal. So back to your answer, why do I appraise? To help people. I think there's too many people that wrongly go to an auction house as their first phone call. Or even worse, they call their local baseball card shop who knows nothing about what they have because all they do is sell wax, packs, boxes, modern, whatever. But you have a 1933 Gaudi set. The baseball card shop hasn't seen one of those in 10 years.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good point because one of the reasons that I got into sports cards is because there is a clear market value established for them, especially if they're, say, 1960 through the present and they're graded, because they're typically going to be at least multiple sales of each card in the last 365 days or the last 180 days or even the last 30 days with some of them. And so you're able to average that out and say, okay, this is actually what this card's worth because these are legitimate sales of this card. Now, what you're talking about from a sports card perspective, as well as memorabilia, that's totally different. So in terms of your process for appraising some of those more rare pieces that don't sell very often, maybe walk us through your process for that.
So I would say on a weekly basis, I have to appraise many one-of-one unique items that have never sold before or will never be sold. It could be a one-of-one pack pulled Kobe Bryant. It could be a signed game used Babe Ruth jersey from 1927, the Murderer's Row. And I have to back into a dollar value. And it's not just like I pull numbers out of thin air. I have to really, it's kind of like putting a jigsaw puzzle together where I lay on my desk a bunch of pieces of paper with information on it. Some of them have values and some don't. And I kind of move things around and it could take some time depending upon what the item is. Now, but back to your question again. Okay, so let's say this one-of-one Kobe Bryant card. It's never been sold before. Okay, well, I know the Michael Jordan card, the one-of-one from that same year, the same set, sold. And the good news is it sold recently. It didn't sell pre-COVID, which I can't use anything pre-COVID. Those values are way different. So at least it gives me a jumping off point, a starting point. Because I know, okay, well, Michael Jordan cards from this set or the year surrounding this set usually sell for more than the Kobe Bryant cards. Okay, but then I got to figure out, well, what percent. So if I know this MJ card is 500 grand, what percent lower would I assign to Kobe Bryant? And that can be difficult, but that's kind of the starting point, and that's how I tend to think about these things.
That makes sense. So any examples you have of maybe more vintage cards where it's a larger collection and a lot of those items have never sold? How do you kind of think about that at a high level? Because I know from what you've told me, these aren't necessarily people looking to sell their collections, but they are looking they are looking to put a value on their collections for different reasons. So maybe you can kind of speak to that a little bit as well.
Yes, and let's talk about those reasons. There's 4 reasons why somebody would call me and hire me for an appraisal. Insurance, that's pretty self-explanatory. Somebody has a large collection, they want to have it insured in case of a wildfire, flood, theft, damage, what have you. The second reason is estate planning. I'm seeing a lot more collections now where the collection is worth a lot more money than their home. For many decades, everyone said your home is the most valuable asset you have. And for many of us, that is true. But there's a lot of collections out there that are worth more than the home. And so estate planning is very important. That's the second reason. The third reason is donation. So a high net worth individual or an athlete or someone wants to get a tax write-off, a tax deduction, and they need someone like myself with my credentials to write an appraisal report and then fill out the IRS form 8283 and then submit it to the IRS. I give it to their CPA and then they submit it to the IRS. So that's the third reason. The fourth reason is divorce, and they're splitting assets. And again, everyone always talks about their home. You know, the home could be 500,000, but the collection is 2 million, and you're getting divorced. You've been married for 30 years, so you have to split it 50-50. So that's a big one too. So those are the 4 reasons why someone would call me in.
I think that's super fascinating because I think that after listening to you break that down, it makes a ton of sense. But I think I would venture to guess that most of our audience, before you gave those 4 reasons, is just not thinking about those things, right? Because typically people, I think overall, are bad at thinking about estate planning. They're bad at thinking about insuring things. They're not thinking about, okay, when I marry this person, I'm going to divorce them. I just think like those things are just inherently people are bad at. But I think it's super smart that you provide those services, and you've kind of, I'll call it a niche. I feel like you've identified opportunities where, like you spoke about earlier, wanting to provide a service where there's no conflict of interest for appraisals, wanting to help people, and kind of carving out this niche and building this business around putting a value through your methodology. And I know it's probably interesting for you because you get different case scenarios each time. How often would you say that you could actually apply, like you have your process that I'm sure you can apply each time, but how often are you able to actually say, okay, well, this collection that I saw actually mirrors this other collection, and so I can use my work over in collection A to appraise collection B? Does that happen?
Not very often. I'll say the closest it comes is, let's say 3 months ago, I appraised a 51 Bowman baseball card complete set and a 52 Topps complete set with the Mantle rookie. It's got all the high numbers. And then a couple months later, same situation, different client, different state, has the same items, 51 Bowman set, 52 Topps set. It's the same, but not, because the condition is widely different. So that's probably the closest I would come, and the values were completely different.
How big, and I don't know how you really define this in like boxes, binders, cases, slabs, rooms, homes, storage units, how big would you say the average collection is that you appraise, or maybe even say like the largest that you've ever appraised?
Well, I mean, it's all different. I mean, there's collections that are large in terms of number of items, but then there's collections that are large in terms of value. Like I've appraised a collection of 40 cards that was $25 million. But then like earlier this year, I was in San Diego. I think there's some video on my social media somewhere of me appraising Tony Gwynn's baseball collection, baseball card collection, memorabilia collection, rings, balls, jerseys. It was in 6 storage units in San Diego, California. And it took days to go through there. And you know, that collection wasn't, I mean, it was valuable, but not like, $10 million valuable. So it kind of runs the gamut, and every day is different.
That's really interesting because you've got like a high net worth individual with a collection of mainly memorabilia. And then you've got a collection of 40 cards that's worth around $25 million. Can you just speak to, and I mean, I kind of know the answer from my own perspective here, but I think it would be interesting for the audience to hear your perspective because you have way more experience than any of us at this. Why is memorabilia so different than cards? Because I think I would say the average non-hobbyist would probably come in and think, okay, Tony Gwynn's all-star ring, or, you know, his batting title award, or, you know, maybe it's a San Diego Padres team signed baseball that he also signed, and it's from his personal collection. I'm just throwing this out there randomly. Why would that be worth less than a particular card that was never owned by a pro athlete, never touched by a pro athlete? I think we know the answers why, but I think there's a lot of people out there that may not know the answers why, and there's a lot of new listeners to our show coming in every week. So, why is memorabilia so different than sports cards?
Well, first thing and foremost, there isn't as much demand for it as trading cards. The second big reason is for decades and decades, right, going back to Beckett in the 80s, there's been trading card publications, magazines, price guides that price out every card. Like a Babe Ruth signed game used jersey, or a Tony Gwynn signed base. Like, there's billions and billions of potentially pieces of memorabilia, and you can't collaborate it all to a price guide. And so because there's no price guide and the demand is a lot less, it can be difficult to evaluate memorabilia. Additionally, the piece there is authenticity. Is something real or not? And I'm sure listeners of your show already know this, but COAs are basically useless, worthless. It only matters who's behind the COA, meaning what company, what person signed off on that. I have a neighbor, you know, he's in construction. He doesn't know anything about sports. If he wants, he can print out 10 million COAs on his computer today or tomorrow and say, this Mickey Mantle is real. This Babe Ruth is real. Anything is real. And we had that with Operation Bullpen in the late 1990s and early 2000s, where people went to jail. That's what they were doing, but they were also signing. They were actually doing the forgeries, and then also printing out the COAs. And then, of course, Donald Frangipani, the forensic examiner, was writing the COAs. And so Paul, I think that's the big thing for me. Every week I get multiple calls from people saying that they have these great things, and they say it's real because they have COAs. And I take one look at it and it's worthless. And I try to explain to people and they don't understand. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, are we speaking English?
Yeah, that's super interesting and a very good point, because I mean, we know that, you know, through all of our research and understanding the hobby and grading cards ourselves, we know that PSA has their own process, CGC, Beckett, SGC, all the different grading company. I mean, JSA, right? And who's owned by CGC now. Like, they have their own process for not only authenticating their cards and using technology, but also authenticating autographs. And obviously the manufacturers authenticate autographs. And we don't want to go down the rabbit hole of different things that have happened there. But for the most part, you know, we're looking at a near 100% success rate, acceptability rate of, okay, if it is slabbed by PSA, we know how to tell it's a legitimate slab, or any of the other grading companies. If it is pulled out of a manufacturer's pack and it says that it was autographed by this player, it was autographed by this player. So I think that's a major difference between sports trading cards, like you're saying, and then the memorabilia, like you're saying. So very good points there. I think I want to switch gears real quick before we let you go, Mike, and ask a few more questions, because I think there's probably a lot of people out there who want to know, okay, we got Mike Osaki here. He's the expert in appraising collections. And we want to know, okay, for people who have collections, what is your best advice you would give them about preserving their collections and keeping them in good shape? Because you mentioned condition. We know condition with sports cards is a big deal, and that's one thing. But in terms of the things that you can do actually to keep your collections in good shape, do you have any low-hanging fruit tips for the audience here?
So obviously keep everything out of sunlight. One interesting tip. So every year, at least one time a year, I get a call from someone that had their item stored in a safety deposit box at a bank. And everybody thinks that it's 100% safe. It's true. No one's going to break into that bank at 3 a.m. and break into the safe and steal your stuff. That will never happen. But what happens is, again, at least once a year, the air conditioning unit malfunctions or something happens, and the water starts to seep into the vault where your items are being stored, and they leak into the box. So my expert opinion here, if you have items stored in a safety deposit box at a bank, that's fine. No need to take them out. But use a plastic Gladware, Glad bag. So let's say you have 10 cards. Don't just have them naked in the box. Put them in the plastic Gladware bag and seal it. This way, if water seeps in, you'll be okay. So do that. And then also, if you have a safe at home, that's great. If you want to vault your items, that's great too. But do something. Don't just have them out and about for the cleaning lady to steal, which does happen quite often, actually, or your 3-year-old niece or nephew to use a crayon on it. That happens too. I know this. This is what I do for a living. So just be smart about your collection. Also, lastly, sometimes those lucite clear holders that we all store our autographed baseballs in, and other items actually, may not be the most ideal way to store. I always recommend acid-free paper archival products to use when storing your sports collectibles. Because what happens is most of these items were manufactured in China or similar country. And over time, those gases or chemicals inside could leak out to your Babe Ruth signed baseball or whatever it is and damage it. So try and use acid-free paper archival products if you can.
That's super interesting. Okay, now I'm sure you've thought about this as well, because you mentioned that you acquired your collection. You're happy that you have it. It's a little bit difficult for you based on your job to acquire more items. Although it seems like you're okay with that. There's a lot that's fulfilling you in the hobby, and you're helping a lot of people as well. But if you had to kind of start a collection today from scratch, what advice would you give people out there looking to start building a collection that will increase in value? And this can be, you can take this question in whatever direction you want, but just, and I'm not asking you to give advice on what to buy or anything like that, but just in general, what advice would you give people looking to start a collection today with the goal of like, okay, I want this to increase in value, not necessarily just sentimental value?
Vintage, you have to be more patient, but vintage trading cards of Hall of Famers in key issues like the T206, 33 Gaudy, like the 40 play ball is not so interesting, 39 play ball. Like you got to hit like the major, 52 tops is a big set. And then I'll also answer the question by saying, which I think is equally as important, is what not to do or what not to invest in. So autographs, generally speaking, they go down in value every year. What happens is sometimes these autographs fade, and it's the luck of the draw. But most importantly is this. As with any market in the world, stocks, real estate, supply and demand, you have a modern athlete, Tom Brady, okay? So he buys his autograph for $2,500. Do you really think that's going to go up to $5,000 over time? No way. He keeps signing every year. And I understand because now he's an announcer, so you see him every week. The demand may tick higher over time, but it's not going to catch up to the supply, okay? And now all these guys are asking too much money for their autographs. You go to a card show and it's like, oh my God, Peyton Manning, so those are horrible investments. But if you buy it because you grew up in Indianapolis and Peyton Manning was your favorite player, or you were at, 55 games and saw Tom Brady, throw touchdowns and you like him, like that's fine. But your question, Paul, it was about investments. So I think about what market not to be in just as important as what to be in.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And it kind of plays into one of the things you just said made me think of what I always think of when I talk to collectors, because I think I've had the whole, people have challenged me about, well, why don't you identify as a collector? Why aren't you a collector? Why don't you keep things? Why, like, do you really enjoy being in the hobby, just flipping things? And my answer is yes. Like, I think everybody can have their own passion that keeps them in the hobby, right? Like we've talked about yours. Mine is, okay, I like the ability to acquire the card, hold the card, enjoy it while I have it. But my ultimate goal is not to hold it long term. It's to hold it more short term and then flip it, hopefully for more than what I paid for it. I think that there are collectors out there who sometimes I like to challenge, okay, what is your why behind why you're buying these things? And the reason I like to do that is because I think that most collectors who have acquired a larger collection, whether in volume or value, they know what their why is, and they're very smart about it. And they're probably better flippers than I am as well. And I won't get into why, but I have a lot of reasons why I believe that. But I think there's a lot of people that have come into this hobby over the last 5 years, and even over the last 5 months or 5 weeks, that we all want to welcome in. But I'm challenging everyone to try to establish their why. Why are you collecting things? So I think I kind of want to get your take on this. Like, do you feel like this is important as I feel like it is? Because you mentioned, okay, what not to go into is just as important as what to go into. And so to me, it's like, okay, before you buy something, ask yourself, what am I going to do with this 5 months, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, kind of a thing? How do you feel about that concept?
Your thing about the why is really important. That's the way you should always start. I remember, again, decades ago when I first bought my stock, it was, okay, I want to buy something I know I'm familiar with, whether it's Starbucks or McDonald's or something like that. Same thing here. It's like, start with your why. Don't buy something because your friends or you hear on social media someone's buying something. You need to be able to answer it to yourself. Why are you buying this card? So let's say you say to yourself today, I'm going to buy, or I'm looking to buy this card. You should come up with 4 or 5 reasons or questions to yourself why you are buying this card. Because eventually, yes, you're going to hopefully try and sell this and make money. But if it doesn't go up in value, at least you can go back and say, well, here are the 4 or 5 reasons why I bought this card. And you can learn for the next time you buy something and say, well, why didn't this work? Am I seeing the same pattern here as I did last time and I lost money? So that's very, very important.
Love it. Always listening and learning. And we appreciate your time today, Mike. Mike Osaki, Baseball in the Attic, baseballintheattic.com, and lead appraiser for PSA. Thanks again for joining us, man. We'll hope to see you real soon.
Thanks, Paul. I look forward to it. It's been fun.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Hopefully you enjoyed this little different flavor of an episode with Janie Parasini from eBay and Mike Osaki, PSA and Baseball in the Attic. Data-driven sports card investing. Don't buy cards without looking at the data. NoOffseason.com is the #1 place to do that. Everybody, thanks so much and have a great day. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at NoOffseason.com. Just go to NoOffseason.com right now. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at NoOffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.